Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance, where people conform to the letter but not the spirit of a request. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some malicious compliance. Make a racist generalization? Hope you weren't banking on that bonus check. I work in accounting for a large company that primarily does high dollar sales, with financing for customers through outside lenders. Think large-scale car dealership type sales, where we sell you the product but help you find a loan with an outside bank. Due to some personal changes, I have also been saddled with answering the phones all day. It's a mild annoyance, but I'm a team player, and it makes the most sense for me to do it, since I'm at my desk for a majority of the day. Now, I am a lot younger than most people there, and I'm one of the few females. Because of this, a few of the guys like to speak to me as though I'm mentally impaired, at least until I firmly state that I'm not their dog, nor do they sign my check. I am the queen of making your life much easier if you just act like a decent human towards me, and showing you just how little I care to help you if you act like a douchebag. Anyway, onto the malicious compliance. Working in this field, we get 1,000,001 calls a day. Some are legit, and of course, some are scams. And I do my very best to field any BS ones I can and take a message that immediately gets thrown away. I'm human though, and I have a whole separate important job to focus on. So naturally, some get through. Cut to last Monday, and someone calls for a finance manager. He sounds foreign, but is calling from a number located in the US, and didn't give off any telltale signs of being a BS caller. I page the manager and go about my business. Not 5 minutes later, this manager bursts into my office, which is just across the street from his, just to rip me a new one about this call. We'll call this guy Richard, since he's a massive one. Richard, in a condescending tone, standing over my desk. If the caller you're paging through can't speak proper English, then it's a good indication that you shouldn't page me and waste my time. I don't have time to stop what I'm doing and deal with these people. Excuse me? You are aware that there are a lot of people who work in this country that speak with an accent, right? When someone who can barely speak English calls, it's always a scammer, so don't waste my time. I should add here, the guy spoke English just fine, he just spoke it with a thick accent. Alrighty, sure thing, Richard. All week long, I kept getting calls asking for Richard by name, and I could see the caller ID showing that it's one of our lenders. But, lo and behold, the agent spoke with a heavy accent, and I sure didn't want to waste Richard's time. So, I took message after message and never bothered to give him these scam calls. Today, I get a call from Richard asking me to verify whether we've got the funding on a $60,000 deal of his, because he hasn't seen the confirmation yet. It's getting close to bonus time, and if we don't get paid, he doesn't get paid. I notice immediately that the lender on this deal is the same one that was calling all last week, but I just confirm that no, the money hasn't come in, and he should call them. 20 minutes later, he storms into my office, demanding to know why this agent is saying she's left messages all week, because they needed a correction to the contract, but he wasn't ever informed. Oh gee, Richard, let me rack my brain here. I got a ton of calls for you last week. Do you know the agent's name? Maybe that'll narrow things down. Yeah, her name is Fatima, and she's saying she left numerous messages. Oh, yes, Fatima! She did call a lot last week, but she doesn't speak very clear English, and you said those callers are always scammers. I didn't want to waste your time with any more nonsense calls. In her message, I'm sure she stated that she works for a bank. Why wouldn't you pass that through? Well, Richard, the last one I patched through also stated that he worked for a financial institution, but you told me he was a scammer because he had an accent. How was I supposed to know that this one was legit? You know good and well that we work with XYZ Bank. This was a legitimate call and I won't get my bonus on this until next month now. Ah, I hate that for you, but I was simply following your instruction that all people with accents are scammers. I don't have the time to memorize all of the 60 lenders we work with, nor do I have the time to cross-reference the list of banks while the phones are ringing off the hook and I'm trying to do my job handling money and processing payroll. Are you saying that you'd like me to start patching all your calls through, even though the caller might have an accent? Yes! If they work for a bank, just send it to me. Great, will do, Richard. And now, life goes on. Before anyone asks, I knew that delaying this funding wasn't going to get anywhere close to messing up our financials, but I did get extreme joy in delaying a racist douchebag's bonus check. I could just imagine the next call that gets through to Richard. Hello Richard, I am a Nigerian prince and I am here to settle with $10 million. All I need is for you to send me $5 million and I will send you it straight away. I'm sorry, that was awful, that accent. I will personally ensure you don't get paid for a minute's work. Well, I guess I won't work then. Over summer last year, I worked for a hospitality agency, doing everything from kitchen work and pot washing to bartending and front of house. As an agency employee, I was working at a different venue almost every shift. And towards the end of the summer, I was asked to work as a waiter at an exhibition centre in my city. I arrived wearing my waiter uniform, shirt, tie, smart shoes, to the admin office of the exhibition centre around 20 minutes before my shift time, and proceeded to be bounced around between different buildings as nobody could find out where I was supposed to be working. I was the only employee from my agency there. At big events, the organisers tend to hire several different agencies, and was in constant contact with my manager back at the office, explaining to her that there was confusion about where I would be working, but I had arrived on time and had parking tickets, etc. to prove it. Around an hour passes before I'm finally sent to one of the several food stands in the centre and told I would be doing pot washing. Now, I would have never worn smart clothing if I knew this was the case, as your clothes are guaranteed to get very messy if you're cleaning the greasy pots, etc. But at this point, I was tired of waiting around doing nothing, so I borrowed an apron and went into the back kitchen of the food stand. It turned out that everything they sold was in paper and plastic packaging, so my only job was to wash out one tray that came in every half hour or so. So I did what anybody would do if they were in a back kitchen alone with no work to do and started using my phone, just scrolling through Facebook. Around 2 hours later, a lady storms into the back kitchen and immediately starts shouting at me for using my phone and doing no work. She then introduces herself as the catering manager, in charge of several food stands, and is furious that I am sitting there doing absolutely nothing. I explained to her that I spent an hour waiting to be told where I was working and I have been washing everything that comes through. It turns out she had been looking for me because I was supposed to be doing the pot washing at a different food stand on the other side of the centre, and went on to say, I will personally ensure you don't get paid for a minute's work that you have done today, calling me work shy and being very insulting. Everyone in the front kitchen can now hear her because of how loud she is yelling. I call my manager and relay off all of this to her. And this is where the malicious compliance comes in. As I had been told that any work I would be doing that day would be unpaid, I had no contractual obligation to do said work. My wage for the day had already been paid to my agency, and my manager's advice was to stay at the centre until the end of my shift time. If I was unable to do any work because of an error on their part, I would still be paid by my agency. If I've been told I'm not going to get paid for even a minute of work, I'm sure as heck not going to waste time working. The next 4 hours were spent sat on my phone in front of the food stand, getting angry looks from the catering manager whenever she walked past. She called her manager, who called my agency, who then showed them that I had arrived on time, had been sending constant updates on being moved around, and had been asked to do a completely different job to what I was being paid for. They also told them about the verbal abuse and threats of not being paid from the catering manager. The cherry on top was that this manager was forced to apologize to me, and I earned a full day's wage for basically sitting on my phone all day. Fair enough, if I'm not getting paid for a job, I'm not gonna do it. Refuse a $40 refund? Alrighty then. Story time. Last September, my wife had planned a wonderful Father's Day present for me. Father's Day is in September in Australia. This was to be my first ever Father's Day as a new dad. So, to mark the occasion, my wife had arranged to have our daughter's face laser etched onto a dog tag. However, the day before Father's Day, she received the item back and it was, shall we say, subpar. So, she came to me and showed me my present early. Now, I've had some experience with bad retailers before, and remembered to always come prepared when disputing the quality of any goods and services. So, I set my phone to record all audio and approached the retailer. I explained that my wife was upset at the quality of the engraving, and rightfully so. I requested a refund and was immediately met with resistance. To begin with, they blamed the quality of the photo we provided. Then, when I disputed that, they said that the laser engraving doesn't do depth very well and some faces can end up with some shadows missing. End of conversation. They refused a refund and threatened to call security if I didn't leave. The engraver is located in a mall that I also happen to work in. My wife and I left. We straight away left a less glowing review on their Google page. This was met with accusations of us being unreasonable and threatening violence. Ours was not the only review to which they had this response. They informed us that the matter had been passed on to their local police, and that a restraining order had been applied for. We immediately called all local police stations and were delighted to hear that they had never heard of the company in question. After some thought, and me being the stubborn person that I am, I decided to forward the matter onto the local small claims tribunal. A month or so passed, and our day in the tribunal had arrived. We honestly weren't expecting the engraver to show up, but lo and behold, there he was, at a civil claims court, in camo pants and a hoodie. We met in a room with a mediator, who told us that it may not be worth chasing a $40 refund from someone who is, in short, a douchebag. She warned me that it may end up costing more than the service to begin with. But, as mentioned before, I am a stubborn person. We pushed forward, opting to go to hearing. This is when we heard some marvelous news from the engraver. Oh, I'm not prepared to go to a hearing today. I haven't got any of my evidence. Ding ding ding! We went to a hearing that day. The registrar ruled in our favour and issued a notice of payment. The business was to pay us $40 within 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, no payment, no surprise. During this time, I had been communicating via email with the holder of the engraver's lease, who, in response to my complaint, among many others, had decided to terminate the lease, effectively kicking the engraver out of the mall. My man! While the engraver was organising a new venue for his business, I had filed a motion for a writ of levy of property, meaning the local sheriff was able to enter his premises and relieve him of merchandise to the value of the refund plus court fees, now totaling $139. I informed the engraver, asking him if he would like to settle like a reasonable person or have the sheriff pay him a visit. He was not a reasonable person. Once the writ had been issued, the fee then increased to $225. All I had to do was wait. And wait I did, until March 13th this year, when the sheriff finally attended his new business premises. He was offered an ultimatum: pay the fee or have merchandise repossessed. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. The man paid. He was stubborn for 6+ months over a $40 refund, only to be down $225 plus 5% interest. Why are some people so stubborn? Like, the guy was stubborn that got the refund, but the guy that sold the tag was probably even more stubborn. Like, just refund it. It's not like it costs you a lot of time or money to make that tag. You're not the manager. So, a little backstory. I have been at my place of work for over 6 years now. Whenever my boss, we will call him Phil, is away, I always step up and cover for him, doing all his work while he is away, plus my own work for no extra pay. I also handle a lot of the day-to-day running of the office, including handling reps and the like. This frees Phil up to do other things for our owner. These activities do take Phil away from the office for a week once a month, so I end up doing a fair bit of extra work. Now, a few weeks ago, Phil and I got into a little argument over a staff member's holiday that interferes with Phil and the owner's activities. The argument ends with him telling me that I was not the manager. While I don't buy it, I just responded with "that's true" and go back to my desk, having lost the argument. Fast forward to last week, and I'm still a bit salty over the argument and being told off, considering I do most of the work in the office. So, Phil leaves on Wednesday for the usual monthly activities with the owner. I decide, well, I have been told I'm not the manager, so I am only going to do my work. I was pretty busy during the week, but I normally make the time to check Phil's email and follow up on what needs to be done from his email. Now, by the time I left on Saturday evening, Phil had 135 unopened emails. Hope you enjoyed your Monday, Phil. After all, you are the manager. Edit. Okay, so an update. I do not work Mondays, and on Tuesday, my wife was sick, so I had the day off to look after my kids. So that was well timed, and a nice icing on the cake. So, I arrive on Wednesday morning, and first things I hear from Phil after the morning pleasantries is how busy Phil was on Tuesday, and how he had no time to do anything, and it took him until midday to clear his emails before he could do anything else. My only response to this was, well, that's a shame. I was also slightly confused, as he should have been here on Monday. So, I asked why so busy on Tuesday. His response was, well, I didn't get back from the activities with the owner until 4 PM on Monday, so I did not have time to do anything that afternoon. Well, honestly, that could not have worked out any better, really. I mean, this guy might be doing him a favour by doing his extra work, but surely he should be compensated from that by the owner. Like, if the owner is taking Phil away from his job, then he needs to pay someone else to do Phil's job for him. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like, and if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.